Good day, everyone. My name is Marilyn McDonald Hendricks, the proud sponsor of the Springer Nature Black Employee Network, known as SNBEN, that started in 2020. From the office of Springer Nature in New York City, I welcome you on behalf of this SN Jubilee. Our members and colleagues are thrilled to have such a vibrant and diverse group of individuals joining us virtually and in person here in New York, London, as well as Sao Paulo, Brazil, and beyond. Today's program includes a video highlighting our accomplishments since the last Jubilee, and our special guests today are Dr. Justin Rose, who is the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of the Redlands in California. And we also have Big Manny, who is a social media sensation and connoisseur of STEM from across the pond. Before we kick off what promises to be a fantastic program, we will receive greetings from Rachel Jacobs, Sonia Swaminathan, and Laura Helmuth. Rachel is the Springer Nature Group Legal Counsel and Executive Lead of all DEI at Springer Nature. Sonia is Director of External DEI Research Collaborations and leads the Springer Nature DEI Research Publishing Program. And finally, we'll also hear from Laura Helmuth, Editor-in-Chief of Scientific American. Laura.
Welcome, everyone. Happy Jubilee. This is such a happy occasion. We're so thrilled. Thank you to SNBEN for making this happen, for bringing us all together across many time zones and hemispheres. It's very exciting. We're thrilled. And we're honored at Scientific American to have partnered with SNBEN for every Jubilee so far. Hope this relationship will continue in all kinds of ways. We work together on talk series, on various business ventures, and SNBEN, for I think most of you know, but has just been one of the most effective, important, inspiring employee groups across Springer Nature. And we're just thrilled to see what they've accomplished and looking forward to today's presentation. So enjoy.
Thank you, Laura. We will now go to the London office.
Okay, I'm hoping that when I say this, I'm heard in at least 3 countries. Good. Everybody froze when I said that, which I'm just hoping everybody's stunned with excitement. But hello, everybody here in London, New York, Sao Paulo, and for everybody joining online, as Marilyn said, or Mimi, as she's otherwise known. I'm Rachel Jacobs. I'm the Group General Counsel here at Springer Nature and a member of the Management Board. But in this context, I'm here as the Springer Nature's DEI champion, where I have the pleasure of working with colleagues across Springer Nature to improve our diversity and ensure people are treated fairly and to build a more inclusive culture within our organisation. And as part of this role, I've had the opportunity to work closely with SNBEN since their formation. Formed in 2020 by a passionate and talented group of SN employees, SNBEN began with 2 chapters, one in the UK and in the US, and has last year expanded to Brazil. Led today by Global Chair Deborah Daly, who's here with me in London, and Benedict Bino, who I'm sure is in New York, although I can't see her on the screen, and supported by Marilyn Mimi Hendricks, who you've already heard from. The network's global committee works hard to deliver on their objectives, and they're making a real difference to life within Springer Nature, but also beyond. In their own words, by fostering inclusivity, SNBEN elevates Springer Nature's company culture, it enriches the diversity of our content, and it also drives business success. Whether internally within our company or externally within our communities, SNBEN has worked to enhance the representation of Black people. Recent examples include working with our talent attraction teams and attending careers fairs to inspire the next generation of people working either at Springer Nature or more broadly in STEM. Working externally with Black STEM organisations, such as establishing relationships and sponsorship and licensing deals with HBCUs. and also establishing partnerships in Brazil, for example, with the Brazilian Association of Black Researchers, which is an organization dedicated to academic scientific research carried out primarily by Black researchers on topics of direct interest to the Black population in Brazil. But what I personally admire about SNBen is that they are so intentional about everything that they do. They are absolutely laser focused on what matters to them and what happens to the Black community. And then they work tirelessly to make progress. I honestly think this is truly inspirational, and I can't celebrate the SNBen enough today and every day, actually. And I really look forward to what's coming next for SNBen. And on behalf of myself and the wider management team at Springer Nature, we stand by you and support you in your aims, and really look forward to working with you over what undoubtedly will be continued success in the future. I'd now like to hand over to Soumya Swaminathan, who's going to say a few words as well. Thank you, Soumya.
Thank you, Rachel. I just want to echo everyone's comments so far. It's an absolute honor for me to be part of the SNBen Jubilee celebration. It's been so inspiring to see SNBen put their mission to action over the last few years. Rachel mentioned several initiatives. There are two more that I'd like to mention: the HBCU Nature Masterclasses and the Nature Takeda Health Equity Awards. These two initiatives really stand out in my mind for the way in which lived experience, expertise synergized with organizational priorities, in particular in the research publishing area, to create something unique and really a first for us as an organization. Over the last couple of years, we within research publishing have evolved our collaborative approach to find ways that we can work across research publishing and SNBen priorities. And one of the ways we've done that is to create a task force called the Global Black Researchers Task Force. This is a forum at Springer Nature that's focused on building relationships with Black researchers across the African diaspora. And a key goal for the task force is to help us increase awareness of and engagement with the Black researcher community, with the aim of building really authentic connections and working toward increasing representation across the researcher networks we work with, which is a really important goal for us as an organization. So I'm really excited by the potential for this task force and what we can do together to elevate representation of Black researchers in our networks. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing from the speakers today.
Thank you, Soumya, for your remarks. And now let's take a moment to enjoy the video showcasing membership involvement and reflection among our partners and ourselves. Sit back and enjoy. Sao Paulo. Substantial. Greetings. My name is Marilyn McDonald Hendricks, the proud sponsor of the Springer Nature Black Employee Network, known as SNBen, with chapters in New York, London, and Sao Paulo. Substantial research states that companies with DEI networks tend to be more profitable. In 2022, SNBen forged ahead with excellence to support revenue-generating activities that resulted in millions of dollars in collaboration with other departments. To align with Springer Nature's DEI research program, I'd like to highlight 3 activities. The first was moderating a panel regarding diversity in STEM on how to further enrich scholarly communication with increased participation from the African diaspora. Second was to present at the Council of Science Editors Fall Virtual Symposium, where one presented how to include historically Black colleges and universities, known as HBCUs, in the science editor's business as usual, hence the BAU. And finally, the third activity I'd like to highlight is the preparation to lay the foundation of launching a chapter in Brazil per SN Ben's strategic plan. The dream cannot be achieved without an excellent team, and I am proud to work with the Global Committee, which each member is going to highlight even more accomplishments of SN Ben.
Hello, my name is Andrea Gonçalves. I am the SN Ben chapter leader in Brazil. I joined Springer Nature about 15 months ago, and in this short period we were able to establish the chapter in Brazil, to start a partnership with the Brazilian Association of Black Researchers to provide them with training in manuscript writing and book proposals. And we also did a launch event in Brazil about leadership, diversity, and innovation connected to Black professionals, which was attended by nearly 100 people in Brazil and elsewhere. This is how active and engaged we are, and I am very proud to be part of SN Ben.
Hello, I'm Bernadette Bino, Global Co-Chair of SN Ben. Looking back at many of our accomplishments in 2022 and 2023 has been extremely insightful, and I'm here to talk to you about SN Ben and their relationships with HBCUs across the country. As SN Ben continues to create a pathway of visibility of the Black researcher and author through our second annual Nature Masterclasses for HBCUs sponsored by the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, we continue to build relationships with these institutions in hopes to break down the inequities often found in scientific publishing of the Black scientists. Attending for the second year in a row, SN Ben journeyed to National HBCU Week sponsored by the White House Initiative, meeting with provosts and presidents to get a better understanding of their journey to R1 and how our content and various sponsorship programs can benefit them. And personally, serving as a network member of the DEI Council from its inception of 2022 to 2023 has been such a journey, standing firm in my voice for all networks and pushing forward on many of our DEI initiatives and goals as it relates to our employees has not only been a pleasure, but a duty to my fellow colleagues.
SN Ben celebrates another exciting year of service to our members and surrounding communities. I'm Courtney Little, chapter lead here in the U.S. We launched one of our key initiatives under Pay It Forward. In partnership with the Jersey City Public School System, myself and Global Co-Chair Bernadette Bino spoke with high school students to introduce the many career paths available in scientific publishing. Next year, we look forward to collaborating with our fellow employee networks to expand the partnership by including additional high schools and local colleges. We also experienced an increase in our local chapter membership. Most notably, we were fortunate to add Michael Brooms as our U.S. chapter co-lead. A longtime friend of the family, Michael brings a wealth of knowledge to our leadership team. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marlene Stewart and I am the UK lead for the Springer Nature Black Employees Network. Thank you so much for joining our event. We really appreciate your attendance. One of the things I wanted to speak to you today is about some conversations we've been having internally regarding our staff's development. A couple of conversations we've been having is the importance of sponsorship and mentorship. In 2022, we organised an event where we had a meet and greet with one of our amazing clients, which was a VP of a very well-known pharmaceutical company, where she was able to impart knowledge and advice of how to spearhead your career wherever you are in STEM. We then was able to lead on to an event this year at the Imperial College, where we was able to speak to Black graduates about their careers and what direction they want to go into. Even to this day, we are still in contact with them, passing them leads, giving them information about jobs and postings that are happening in the area of STEM, and that is something that we're doing at the moment. Thank you so much for your attendance.
Hi, I'm Felicity Agyman, SNBen's Global Secretary and UK Pay It Forward Lead. I'd like to highlight a few of the initiatives we've worked on over the last few years. 2021 saw us partner with BB STEM and HR on an introduction to publishing workshop. Our members also participated in Springer Nature's virtual work experience aimed at 14 to 16-year-olds. In 2022, we hosted a virtual stand at the STEM Noir conference. And this year, we spoke to students aged 14 to 16 years old, giving them an insight into the various career paths available in STEM publishing. And building on from the Nature News internship in 2021, this year we worked with the DEI team to launch the DEI Opening Doors internship. Just a few of the ways we are paying it forward.
Hi everyone, I'm Rabia Awais. I'm the project coordinator for the Springer Nature Black Employee Network. I'd like to highlight a few of the initiatives we've worked on. Last year in 2022, a few members of our global committee members attended the Women in Leadership training course, which looked at the challenges faced by women of colour, mastering awareness of self and others, and how to develop authentic leadership. This was then shared back in a download session for our SNBen female community. Another highlight was this year in 2023, we organised a mental health talk for our members in the UK, US and Brazil offices. We were incredibly pleased to be joined by Dr. Dominique Prechard, a licensed therapist, speaker and a wellbeing consultant. She's an expert in the mental health and shared a wealth of experience with us. I'm now looking forward to many more exciting events for next year. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Deborah Daly, and as the Global Chair for SNBen, I'm thrilled to share some of the work our network has achieved over the past year. We've been working tirelessly to create a supportive community that empowers our members and promotes diversity and inclusion in STEM. We've organised impactful events like mental health and wellbeing, women in leadership, and financial planning for our members. We've given talks at schools and partnered with HR and Nature Careers to attend career fairs to inspire the next generation of talent. We've also taken our mission to the next level by bringing academic training to early career researchers via Nature Masterclasses for HBCUs in the US and via our newest chapters partnership with the Brazilian Association of Black Researchers. But our journey doesn't stop there. It's about our incredible members and the connections we're building. Hear from some of them on their experiences of SNBen, and we hope you enjoy today's event. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm India and I'm production editor for the Nature Reviews team. I love socialising and building new relationships, so I really appreciate SNBen for this reason. Therefore, my contribution to the network has been to organise fun, social and cultural activities for everyone. Over the past few months, we have watched Black Panther at the Open Air Cinema in King's Cross, visited the Black Venus exhibition in Somerset House, and we have the Black Book Marketplace coming up in October.
Hi, I'm Zoe Anderson, a manager within the Governance, Risk and Compliance team based in London. I started in January 2023, and soon after I joined SNBen to meet new people and to form meaningful connections. I had the opportunity to help with the school experience sessions, and I hope I helped the students understand the varied roles within the publishing sector.
Hi, my name is Paul Adesoji. I'm a partnership manager for Springer Nature. Recently, I participated in the Black Graduates Careers Conference at Imperial. I was representing the panel and providing my experience into alternative careers within science. I felt like this was important to shed light on how I've got here and also encourage other graduates who are embarking a similar journey. The network has positively impacted me, providing me with a support group as well as a community that I can give back to.
Employee networks are important, SNBen especially because we are underrepresented in the publishing sector, and specifically in academic publishing. For those of us in this space, it's an opportunity to come together and share experiences as well as illustrate to those new to the field that there is a space for them and they can be successful in this industry.
Oi, pessoal. Eu me chamo Andrea, sou coordenadora de Facilities na Macmillan Brasil. Eu me juntei ao time do SNBN aqui no Brasil como uma aliada da causa, né? Mesmo sendo negra. E eu estou totalmente comprometida em apoiar e ajudar o grupo. Vamos juntos criar um ambiente mais justo e inclusivo.
Olá pessoal, me chamo Rian da Silva Ribeiro, tenho 20 anos e participo do grupo CNB Brasil em prol da sua causa, onde visa promover a inclusão, a igualdade e a diversidade entre pessoas negras dentro da empresa. Obrigado.
Okay, thank you for joining Springer Nature's Black Employee Network, Scientific American and Springer Nature for this global event on Blackness and DEI and updating the face of STEM. We are thrilled to have you with us today. Diversity in STEM is crucial because it drives innovation, creativity, and progress. When we bring people together from different backgrounds, perspectives, and experiences, we foster a richer environment for discovery. Diversity also ensures that the benefits of advances in science address the needs and challenges of all communities. Encouraging and supporting those from diverse backgrounds is equally important. It's vital to build space for Black researchers because representation matters, and this will inspire and empower the next generation of scientists. A key way to encourage diversity and support underrepresented groups in STEM is to build connections and collaborate with organizations already leading in this important work. This can be achieved through various activities, including sharing networks, participating in mentorship programs, offering internships, engaging in outreach efforts, collaborating on policy creation, and providing funding for grants and scholarships. We are fortunate to have representatives from some of these organizations here with us today. I'll call out a few individuals, so please wave to acknowledge your presence. We have Paulette Wilson from Academy Achievers. Watson, sorry. And Shazia Ishak and Barbara Adudarko from Black Young Professionals. Thank you. We also have a series of short videos showcasing the outstanding work of some of these organizations, and we encourage you to connect with these representatives to discuss possible ways of working together. By building connections, we create a more inclusive and dynamic future for STEM. Thank you.
My name is Paulette Watson, the founder and managing director of Academy Achievers. We aim to bridge the digital skills gap in STEM, AI, Web3, and shape a brighter future through education and progression. Access to quality education is the key to unlocking individuals' potential and driving societal progress. Our organization is dedicated to equipping individuals with the digital skills they need to thrive in the modern world. We are committed to creating accessible, innovative, and effective education resources that empower all learners, regardless of their background, to reach their full potential. We are passionate about education as a means of personal and professional growth. We believe learning is a lifelong journey, and we strive to make it engaging and transformative for everyone. This is done by fostering a culture of continuous learning. We aim to empower individuals to adapt and succeed in a rapidly changing digital landscape. We are excited about the opportunity to collaborate with Springer Nature to further our mission, and we want to join forces to deliver the BME digital inclusion, mentoring, our meetups, tech events, and valuable work experiences through apprenticeships and internships. Together, we aim to empower aspiring talent and bridge the digital skills gap with hands-on opportunities, guidance, and shaping a brighter future for all. Thank you very much.
BP STEM is a non-profit organization campaign for balance and representation of Black individuals in STEM. They aim to encourage, enable, and energize individuals in business, industry, and education to widen the participation and contribution of Black individuals in STEM. The professional network of BP STEM members aims to inspire the young Black British generation to pursue STEM subjects in university and beyond. Their principal mission is to have Black parity in the UK STEM workforce, from school to the highest level in industry. Last year, SMBN chose them to be the recipients of our charity donation.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I can't tell you how excited I am right now. I am bursting with excitement. I'm trying to be so professional right now. I have a script. I literally have a script, and anyone that knows me knows that when I'm excited, I'm the worst person to be around. Thank you again for everyone that's coming. As I said, I've got a script here, and my job is to introduce Manny. But before I introduce him, please, guys, we have refreshments and drinks. At any period, if you want a drink or something, please feel free. I don't want you sitting here parched and knowing that there's refreshments there and you can't get to it. So please feel free to get up and have a drink. Okay, to my script. Before the script, my son was supposed to be here today. When I told him Manny was going to be in the building, he literally jumped on me. My son is 6'3" and he is 14 stone, so that wasn't very nice. He's been following Manny's content for a long, long, long time, and if anybody doesn't know who he is, you will today. So back to my script. Okay, so Manny blew up on the social media scene in 2021. After posting commentary explainer videos online to help the struggling homeschoolers in the midst of COVID-19. Obviously, everyone was touched by that situation and dealing with homeschooling. For me, I'd never been a teacher before, so Manny's content was fabulous. Noticing there was a need for more in-depth explainer videos, Manny set about creating content that went viral very quickly. Manny has a master's degree in biomedical sciences. He was previously a secondary school science technician. His aim was to help students that had an interest in science and those that didn't see themselves in the field, underrepresentation. It's fair to say that his content has a wider appeal to its original student base. I'm no student, but I stalk him on socials. Because of his entertaining and engaging format that has attracted people that are scientifically curious too, but from all over the world, which is so inspiring. As a result of Manny's highly engaging science experiments, we'll see a couple soon, he has a combined following of over 3.3 million on TikTok and on Instagram. He has appeared on Blue Puta 1,000,001 times, I think. He has done collaborations on BBC, ITV News, worked with the Crick Institute, Oxford Education, and many, 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 many more. We'd be all day with his amazing accolades. He also has his debut in his book, Science is Lit, which will be publishing in August 2024. So with great appreciation, Manny, thank you so much for being here.
Please don't try this at home. All right, cool. Man's got one lithium battery there and some lemon juice in it. I'm going to react them together and see what I want. So the lithium that's in this battery is in the form of foil, and it's way more reactive when it's in the foil thing because it's got a larger surface area to volume ratio in it. So that means that don't try this at home. Exposed, so it's going to react with the lemon juice and that in it. All right, cool. So we're going to fold it up now, yeah? Then we're going to pour up some lemon juice, you know what I'm saying, yeah? Then we're going to react them together and see what I want. All right, cool. Lithium into the lemon juice, yeah? You see what I'm saying? Red flames and that. It's a mad thing, cuz. So lithium, yeah, when it burns with a nice red flame in that. You know what I'm saying? Now, lithium metal can burn at a temperature of over 2,000 degrees Celsius. And this beaker is made from borosilicate glass. And it can withstand temperatures of only up to 1,600 degrees. That's why it started cracking up in that. You know what I'm saying? It's peak, fam. Man, gotta get a new thing. And you see all that gas that's being released? That's hydrogen gas, flammable thing, innit? Now, the reason why hydrogen is being released is because the lithium metal is giving this one electron to the hydrogen ions in the lemon juice, innit? And when the hydrogen ions receive the electron from the lithium, they turn into hydrogen atoms, you know what I'm saying? That's why we're seeing bare smoke in that, fam. You don't know, man. Lithium battery thing. Don't try this at home, man. You know what time it is, cuz. Come on, man.
Over to Andrea.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And we're very happy to join you today from our office in São Paulo, Brazil. We're also very proud to be the youngest chapter of SNBN in the company. And it couldn't be different since we're talking from a country, Brazil, where over 50% of the population identifies themselves as Black persons. And yes? Okay, I thought you were telling something. But anyway, so that's why I think it's even more important to have an SNBN chapter in Brazil, since we know that our population is not equally represented in STEM or in the publishing industry. And that's why also I think our partnership with the Brazilian Association of Black Researchers was so important for us and for them. So let's hear from them now in the video that they prepared for this occasion. Thank you.
Olá, eu sou Delton Aparecido Felipe, dos diretores da Associação Brasileira de Pesquisadores e Pesquisadoras Negros e Negras.
It shouldn't be. No, but it's always on this.
Olá, eu sou Delton Aparecido Felipe, dos diretores da Associação Brasileira de Pesquisadores e Pesquisadoras Negros e Negras, a ABPN. A ABPN é uma organização acadêmico-científica que tem como objetivo agregar, produzir e divulgar conhecimentos de interesse da população negra. Para além disso, os conhecimentos produzidos pela ABPN também têm como objetivo a promoção da igualdade racial e o combate ao racismo. Para isso, nós da ABPN trabalhamos em 3 frentes: divulgação acadêmica, articulação social e formação de liderança. Nesse exato momento, nós estamos em parceria com a Spring Nature, a partir do seu grupo de funcionários negros, em um projeto chamado Potencializando Carreiras Acadêmicas Negras. Esse projeto ele tem como objetivo impulsionar a produção acadêmica de intelectuais negros e negras. Para isso, nós organizamos esse projeto a partir de 3 podemos potencializar no futuro a formação acadêmica, a organização de uma rede de profissionais acadêmicos, tanto nacional como internacional, e a socialização da produção acadêmica desses profissionais. Agradecemos imensamente a parceria com a Springer e esperamos que essa parceria gere frutos tanto no Brasil como fora do Brasil.
Alright, boom. Man's got one apple there and some sodium and potassium in it. I'm gonna inject them into the apple and see what I go on, fam. So first, we're gonna chop it up into some little pieces and that, you get me? Then we're gonna pour some mineral oil on it. This will stop it from reacting with the oxygen and water in the air, innit? Alright, cool. So now, yeah, we're gonna crush it together and that. Now, sodium and potassium are both solid metals at room temperature, innit? But when you mix them together, they make an alloy called NaK, which is liquid at room temperature. So that means that it's got a lower melting point and that. Look at this here. This is the NaK thing, innit? NaC settings, bruv. It's bare bouncy and that, man. Some jelly thing, bruv. But it's mad reactive, fam. I swear. Alright, cool. So man just use a little syringe to pick it up and that. And then we're gonna bore a hole into the apple so we can put it in there, innit? Alright, cool. Let's go, yeah? Oh my days, cuz mad fireworks and that bare smoke, man. You know what time it is, bro. All that smoke here, that's a hydrogen gas thing, innit? Flammable settings, bro. Let's look at a little slow-mo thing still. So obviously in this reaction, yeah, the sodium and potassium are reacting with the water inside the apple, innit? And that makes sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide. And the sodium hydroxide reacts with the fructose sugar in the apple and it changes it into mannose sugar. Do you know what I'm saying, fam? Man knows what's going on, man. You done know, cuz we out here with the science settings and that, fam.
Welcome from the US. We are so excited to see you all here today in support of SMBen's journey to educate and inspire our colleagues and viewers about Blackness and DEI. As we navigate through this journey, we acknowledge our allies and friends, the network's mission and values. Even with a diverse group of membership, we could not achieve all that we have done without the help of our partners and nonprofit organizations. Let me introduce to you two of the U.S. organizations we proudly work with and support: the United Negro College Fund and the National Society of Black Engineers, NSBE. So right now I'm going to bring up Dr. Justin Rose, but before I do so, I just want to give you a little bit of information about him. Dr. Justin Rose is the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Redlands. As Dean, Dr. Rose oversees an academic portfolio of departments and programs for the college, which is comprised of more than 150 faculty and over 2,000 undergraduate and graduate students. Prior to joining the University of Redlands, Dr. Rose served as the Dean for Faculty Recruitment, Development, and Diversity, Chair of the Department of Politics and Law at Rose College in Tennessee. At Rose, Rose managed the entire search process for all the faculty hiring and worked very closely with departments and programs to recruit and retain a top-tier and diverse faculty body. Before his time at Rose, Dr. Rose served as an administrative fellow in the Office of Enrollment Services and the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging at the Harvard Kennedy School at Harvard University. where he enhanced the school's recruitment of underrepresented groups. He also serves as the scholar in residence at Harvard College's Kirkland House. Additionally, Dr. Rose was an associate professor of political science and director of the Africana Studies program at Howard and Williamson Colleges. In 2019, Rose published his first book, The Drum Major Instinct, Martin Luther King Jr.'s Theory of Political Service, with the University of Georgia Press. Dr. Rose has a PhD in government from the University of Virginia. He received his MA in political science from Baylor University and his BA in political science from Rutgers University. Welcome, Dr. Rose.
All right. So thank you for this wonderful introduction. Thank you for this invitation. It's so great to be here. I feel like I'm in a scene out of Succession, being in this room here. So this is pretty neat. I'm really inspired by all the work that SNBN is doing, paying it forward. I think that's really terrific. Working to create a welcoming environment for people of color, and particularly Black people, is so vital, not only for employees of Springer Nature, but also obviously all the work you're doing out in the community. There was a word that was used earlier that I just want to return to, right? And that was intentionality, right? Intentionality, and being intentional about our diversity efforts is so important. And it's something I'm going to hit on quite a bit today. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit. I was asked, to talk about Blackness and DEI. And so I'll talk a little bit about that, but I just want to be very clear, right? One of the things you didn't hear in my introduction is STEM faculty member, right? I'm not a STEM faculty member. I'm entering into this space, into this conversation as an administrator who's working really hard to diversify STEM at my own college and university, and has been trying to do that over the past decade or so. And so, it's very familiar with the challenges firsthand. And so I'll be entering in and talking a little bit about it from that space. But I want to start off with a quote that I thought was apropos for our conversation today. Maybe. All right. It was once said, talking about race in America is not rocket science. It's more difficult. And that quote can mean many things to people, but if you've ever tried to talk about race in America, you know how fraught it is, right? It's fraught on a personal level. It's fraught because you have years and years and centuries of discrimination, and you have the structural component, right? And how all these interweave to make conversations that seem very simple and straightforward, very difficult and complicated, and make conversations that are very difficult and complicated a little more straightforward. And so these two, I think, interact quite a bit. And I'm glad to see that we have representatives from the UK and Brazil, countries that have their own fraught history with race. And I'm sure, right, something similar can be said. So I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about setting the pace, setting kind of the floor of kind of where we are. So we're going to look at a little bit at our National Science Foundation's report that just was released last year, Diversity in STEM, Women, Minorities, and Persons with Disabilities. And these next set of slides are going to just talk a little bit to kind of give you a sense of where we are, right? So the first thing is just looking at the characteristics of the U.S. population. So these are people aged from 18 to 74, and in particular in terms of the workforce. And it's broken out. In particular, I'm going to focus on the race, right? So when you look at the 18 to 74 population within America, you see whites represent 61% of that population. And then you get to blacks at 12%, Hispanic 18%, and Asian 6%. All right, and then it's broken out in a number of levels here, right? So the labor force, so that's anybody who's currently employed or seeking employment, right? Whereas the workforce is just anybody who's currently employed. And you see the statistics stay pretty much the same. They drop a little bit when you get to the workforce. But when you look at the STEM workforce, you see a couple of things happening, right? First of all, whites are overrepresented in the STEM workforce. Asians are really overrepresented in the STEM workforce, and blacks are
underrepresented, as well as the Hispanic, Latin American population. All right, can we skip ahead? Unless this is working. It is not. I think you went ahead. All right. So this is looking at each population, right? Each race, and how their race is broken up in that workforce, right? All right. So there's 3 categories here. So S&E occupations, right? So science and engineering occupations, S&E related occupations, and middle skill occupations. So the S&E occupations are typically require a bachelor's degree, high level of skill, and work directly in science and engineering. Whereas the S&E related occupations are things kind of tangential to the, okay, all right, the S&E, okay, maybe even better. The S&E related occupations are occupations that require some level of skill, but typically are kind of like management or maybe in the healthcare sector, but not the high level hard skills that you need for the S&E occupations. And then the middle skill occupations tend to be more hands-on, menial kind of work that don't require degrees. And so you start to see some really interesting phenomena break out, right? So when we talk about just the STEM workforce, right, we saw the representation, but now we start to see some differences in the representation when we break it out. In particular, right, again, you see where Asians are really overrepresented. 52% of Asians who work in the STEM field work in this high level, the S&E occupations, and they're underrepresented in the middle skill occupations. Whereas you see the inverse when it comes to Hispanic and Black populations, right? Underrepresented for the Hispanic, overrepresented, severely overrepresented in terms of the middle skill occupation, and then for Blacks, underrepresented in the S&E occupations, a little bit more concentrated in the middle, but also overrepresented in the middle skill occupations. Can you move on to the next one? All right, so that is how they break out in terms of each race. But now this is, if you're looking at the entire workforce, you see some real trends really take off. So Asians, right? Remember, 6% of the population, 21% of the S&E workforce, right? So overall, they are severely overrepresented. Whites as well. Blacks underrepresented, Hispanics underrepresented, and then, right, the inverse towards the end. All right, so why does this matter? If we can go to the next slide. Compensation, right? So STEM occupations overall, when you look at the STEM occupation versus non-STEM occupations, you can begin to see the disparities, right, in terms of earnings. Obviously, in the STEM fields, people tend to earn more than in the non-STEM fields in terms of their median wage. And so, again, if you look at the white and Asians in the STEM fields, they bring in more income, and Blacks and Black, American Indian, and Hispanic tend to earn less. And it gets even worse when we look at the next slide. All right, so this next slide, again, remember, breaking out the STEM fields into the 3 distinct categories, right? S&E, so science and engineering, middle skill, and S&E related, right? Asians bringing in over $107,000 as a median, as their median wage and income when it comes to what they're bringing in terms of the S&E. Whites 89, and then you see Blacks and Hispanics underpaid, right? In every field. So you talk about, you know, some of the challenges of not only getting into the field, right, being underrepresented when you get into the field, but then also being underpaid within the field, and the disparities that take place there. All right, so this is, of course, the workforce, but then we got to think about what leads to the workforce, and that's the education. And we go to the next slide. All right, so looking at the race and ethnicity, U.S. population, 18 to 34-year-olds. This first bar here kind of breaks it down in terms of the overall population, right? Whites, Asians, again, 6% of the population. Hispanics 22, and Blacks 14 for that age range. And then breaking it down in terms of the degree recipients. Most of it, not really good news. The one thing that stands out for Blacks is that they are 9% of STEM degrees in terms of the bachelor's, but they actually bump up in terms of master's, but again, underrepresented when it comes to PhDs. Can you go to the next slide? So this is how it breaks out for Blacks. Back one more. This is how it breaks out for Blacks in terms of undergraduate degrees and what they earn in terms of the STEM fields. So as you see, social and behavioral sciences, Blacks tend to earn more degrees there, and their lowest is in engineering. A little higher in terms of math and computer science, and this is a comparison between 2011 and 2020, and you see a slight dip for math and computer science, about even in engineering, about even in social and behavior sciences, almost even across the board. Not much good news in terms of the degrees being earned. And then this is what it looks like for on the graduate level, right? So overall number, Blacks doing better, percentage-wise, not much better at all, right? And so the trajectory, again, population is growing, and so you're seeing higher numbers, but percentage-wise, actually not really good news. All right, so that's just laying a little bit of the groundwork. I mean, the takeaway, Blacks are underrepresented, right, in terms of education, at every level, underrepresented in terms of the workforce at every level, and underpaid. Similar to Asian population and American Indian, and then again, the inverse, whites tend to be overrepresented in STEM fields, Asians overrepresented, and the higher wage earners. All right, so what are some of the challenges to Blacks in STEM fields, particularly in my field, thinking about higher education? Can you go to the next slide? The barriers are pretty straightforward on the face of it, right? And again, thinking about this in terms of race being complicated, every layer, there's another layer, right? So we know that Blacks tend to come to higher education with academic preparation as being one of their challenges. Some of the questions about why that's the case, right? When we think about the K through 12 school system and the challenges there, we know that with COVID, there was an impact that we're starting to see more and more, not just with Blacks, but our students across the board in terms of learning loss and the need to get students up to speed. Imposter syndrome, something, again, everybody suffers, but it becomes more acute, right, when you're a person of color, and then you don't have the next thing, representation, people who look like you, people who can affirm you. A sense of belonging, again, thinking about the work that we do here with SN Ben and the importance, right, of creating a welcoming environment, particularly in some of the harder STEM fields. If you don't have that welcoming environment, right, you become discouraged and want to move away. Mentorship, I heard a lot of talk here about helping people see pathways to publishing, right? So mentorship, research opportunities, these go hand in hand, whether on the undergrad level, whether at the graduate level, making sure that you have and you're creating networks for people to have the opportunity to publish more and more, right? And I'll talk a little bit about this in a second. Having Blacks acknowledge mental health challenges, something that was somewhat taboo. We're starting to see more and more show up in the data about these challenges and being able to talk about it. Funding, right? Being able to pay for school, so important, so critical, a big challenge for our students of color, Black students in particular. Strong labor market. So interesting thing here in higher education, it's a perverse kind of thing, but the stronger the labor market, the less likely, right, students are to actually go into higher education, particularly if there are students who are thinking about going to community college. The trade-off, right, you know, the opportunity cost, have an opportunity to work full-time, earn more money than, right, seeing the long-term payoff of going and getting an associate's degree. And guardian responsibilities, right, so data showing more and more students of color, in particular, Black students, Hispanic students, have more responsibilities in terms of taking care of a sibling, their own children, or maybe an adult in their life. And all this impacts, right, their ability to succeed and thrive in school, but also in STEM. Next slide, please. All right, the role of HBCUs, wasn't able to find really strong data in terms of the timeline. So, but this gives you a bit of a snapshot, right? So according to UNCF, 8.5% of Black undergraduate students attend HBCUs, yet almost 25% of Black STEM bachelor's degrees are awarded from HBCUs. 8 of the top 20 institutions that graduate Black undergraduate students who ultimately go on to earn doctorates are from HBCUs, and then 1/3 of all Black students who have earned doctorates graduated with bachelor's degrees from HBCUs. This is important data. It means HBCUs are playing an important role. But the inverse of this is that it's an important role, it's a limited role, right? And so that means that when you look at this, last one-third of Black students are going to HBCUs. The other two-thirds, right, are being produced elsewhere. So where is that elsewhere? And that elsewhere are public institutions, by and large, and regional institutions. And I'll talk to you a little bit about why this is important. So if you've followed any of the debate around affirmative action, you heard this kind of really one important argument that was made over and over again, and it's what scholars call the mismatch thesis. And the thesis goes like this. What happens is we allow students of color to go to these schools because we privilege race, and they are underprepared for these schools and they don't do well. Right? So there's a mismatch between the skill level of our students and the schools that they get into, right? And this argument doesn't hold for white students and for Asian students because they don't get any advantages, get in on their own merit, and therefore, right, they're able to perform. All the data points to the opposite, right? It's that students of color, particularly Black students, when they get to institutions, they don't actually underperform. They actually perform up to par, are in line with many of their peers. And when they do struggle, it's not because of academic preparation necessarily. It's because of many other challenges. And one of the reasons they do succeed is because there tends to be more support resources, right? So you heard in my bio, I was a scholar in residence at the Kirkland House at Harvard, right? This blew me away. Harvard, right? One of the top colleges in the nation, that students are, super, super qualified. In the Kirkland House, right? We had a faculty member who worked there. We had a whole slew of graduate students, all there to help students, to tutor them, to advise them, right? There was layer upon layer upon layer of support for students at Harvard University to succeed. And you get that, right, at your top elite institutions. You get that at your top flagship institutions. When it comes to regional institutions, comprehensive institutions like my own, there's much more challenges in terms of funding. There's much more challenges in terms of student support. And so the big challenge that Black students have, and for administrators and admissions officers that drives us crazy, is that we have students, Black students, undermatch, right? Students who have the ability to go to higher tier schools don't go. And there's a slew of reasons for that. One is, bad advising along the way. One is, right, belief that sticker shock, right? Oh, I can never afford to go there. So they don't even bother applying to see what kind of package they would get. And so there's a number of factors that play into, students deciding to go to a comprehensive or a local regional institution and say, proximity to family, things of that nature that may help us Black students stay local and not go to a top tier school. And so we have, unlike the mismatch thesis, we have Blacks undermatching. And again, if Blacks are primarily going to comprehensive regional institutions, they're not getting the same kind of support structures to thrive that they would if they were able to go to elite institutions. And I'm bringing this up because I'm going to bring it full circle towards the end. All right. So not only, right, is it an issue of getting Blacks in the door at institutions, it's also an issue of keeping them there, right? STEM persistence is an issue. So one of the studies that found that white, Hispanic, and Black students tend to declare STEM majors at a similar rate, but they don't graduate within STEM at similar rates, right? So 58% of white students who declare STEM as a major go on to proceed and get a degree in STEM, 43% for Hispanics and 34% for whites. For Black students who go on to earn a STEM degree. So I'm going to talk about the next slide in a second, but it is uniquely a STEM. There have been some studies that talk about STEM. STEM, business are some of the fields where Blacks tend to not persist at the same levels, whereas many of the humanities fields, they do persist at even greater levels. So part of it is about STEM specific. So in addition to STEM being an issue in terms of persistence, just Black persistence in higher education, right? So what you tend to find with white students is they may change their major. You see that some with Black students, but you also see Black students stopping out. So the Lumina Gallup recently just ran a poll in 2024 where they were just talking with students about, what's going on, how are you feeling, and they found that Black and Hispanic students were more likely than their white peers to consider leaving their program altogether in the past 6 months. And the reasons, right, stated, emotional stress, mental health, right? Glad that that's showing up as a data point so that we can begin to really address it in ways that we've probably under addressed when it comes to Black students. Cost, right? Again, funding being a big issue. About 6 in 10 Black and Hispanic unenrolled U.S. adults report that they've considered enrolling in a program in the past 2 years. But, right, when asked, they were typically talking about certificate programs and associate's degrees, right? So, which is an important point. We want Blacks, to get education wherever they can. But again, not necessarily thinking about 4-year degrees. If they're unenrolled, thinking about, what is that on-ramp through a community college or certificate. So what you're seeing more and more colleges try to put together are certificate programs to attract students and to do things like stackable certificates. Stackable certificates are a way of saying, okay, you take 3 or 4 classes, you get a certificate, take another 3 or 4 classes, you get another certificate, and then you can build that towards some sort of degree, whether it's a master's degree, bachelor's degree, etc. And again, financial aid scholarships, the big driver in terms of thinking about coming back. All right. And one of the reasons I wanted to emphasize this is STEM is a problem, but Black persistence in school is a problem across the board. And so this is a little blurry, you probably can't see it, but when you look at the national trends, this is 6-year completion rate, which is what we track. We look at 4-year, but we look at 6-year, right? Thinking about the timeout. Blacks, besides Native Americans, have the lowest completion rates in college, right? Across the board. And it hasn't moved much. And so 44% completion rate for the cohort that started in 2015, right? So 6 years later, have they finished? 44% who start don't finish. Very, very sobering number. Sorry, I think the billboard said I was going to give an aspiring talk. It's a sobering number. So it's a STEM problem, but it's a higher education problem, right? All right, so maybe this is the inspiring part. So I did a little bit of a case study, and one institution that kind of always stands out when you talk about success in STEM, particularly for Blacks, is the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. It's a school that was a kind of sleepy regional institution. I believe it was founded in 1960, and it was a commuter college, and it had a visionary provost who then became the visionary president, Freeman Rabowski, who went on to serve for nearly 30 years. Along the way, while he was a provost, he engaged with a billionaire philanthropist couple who said, hey, we'll give you money to start a program to attract and retain Black males in STEM. So this was the Meyerhoff Scholars, and they had these kind of 13 points and components of the Meyerhoff program. Number one, right, recruitment. We want to go out and we want to get the top students who are really interested in pursuing STEM, getting a PhD in STEM, and we're going to invest in them. We're going to invest in them by giving them financial aid, create a summer bridge program. We have some program values that really emphasize going on to get a PhD in the STEM field, but also thinking in a communal way. They create study groups, program community, they build community. All first-year students have to live together. They're encouraged to live together. They have to take a first-year class together. And they're encouraged to live together on campus throughout their next 4 years, their next 3 years on campus. They all get personal advising and counseling, right? Thinking to the mental health issues, tutoring, summer research internships, mentors, faculty involvement, administrative involvement, and staff support, which is really key, right? So from the president who says that this is a top priority for me on down, you have the university saying this is key and drawing that, bringing that in over and over again. And then family involvement, right? Realizing that particularly for students of color, this is not just an issue for the student, this is a family event, right? And so getting them involved. All right, can you go to the next slide? So since 1993, when this was founded, again, remember targeting Black males, then was expanded to Black women. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the expansion beyond that. It's graduated over 1,500 students. The alumni have 448 PhDs, which includes 78 MD PhDs, 1 DDS, 1 DMV, DVM, 160 MDs or DOs, 330 masters, primarily in engineering, computer science, and related areas, right? So wildly successful program. They then, right, go on to become faculty members who then go on to research and create, right, this virtuous cycle moving forward of bringing up the next generation of Black students. But I want you to pay attention to this second to last bullet point. An additional 249 students are currently enrolled in the program for the 23-24 academic year, of whom 70% are underrepresented. 30% are from backgrounds that are not underrepresented. Why do you think the change? Legal challenges, right? So part of what happened in the American landscape is we started to have legal challenges. Said, you know, why are you having these programs specifically for Black people? And so we had to broaden it out. So what is diversity? So then it became, you know, are you committed to underrepresented minorities and the issues surrounding that, right? So then this became a way of saying, okay, people who are interested in these issues, people who are interested in furthering this cause can be a part of this, but it's no longer exclusively for Black students. And you see this challenge happen over and over again, and it's something I'll come back to. All right, so some of the lessons learned, right? One is leadership matters. Leadership matters, right? Freeman Hrabowski, a Black man who was pretty much a genius. I think he got his undergraduate degree or started college at 16, got his PhD about 25 in mathematics, was deeply committed to this, marched in the civil rights in the 1963 Birmingham campaign as a kid, right? Something that he was deeply committed to and wanted to see through. So leadership certainly matters, but so does philanthropy. So as someone who's trying to run and do STEM programs myself, it costs a lot of money, right? So just to give you a sense, they have a summer bridge program, 6 weeks. If you're part of this program, you have to be involved 6 weeks on campus. I'm doing a program 4 days. It's costing $20,000, right? Just to run this program. So just imagine 6 weeks and what that takes. They commit to financial aid, right? For all their students, right? There's the money that has to be invested there. So there's that commitment to funding. The role of foundations and partnerships. So as you go through the history of the Meyerhoff Scholarship, it started with a very generous grant from a very generous gift from these philanthropists, but then other organizations get involved. They get involved to help the program continue. They get involved to expand the program in terms of now they have one at the graduate level. But then, right, the Howard Hughes Medical Institute said, okay, we see this program is really working. Now we want to expand it out. And so UNC now is doing a version of this program. University of Penn State is doing a version of this program, or University of Pennsylvania, one of the two. Howard Hughes Medical Institute is helping that happen. The Zuckerman Chan Institute Foundation said, hey, we like this. We want to bring this to San Diego, right? So they're funding it. So UC system is getting involved in that as well. The role of the state, and again, intentionality, right? One of the things I think that made this program really successful is that they were very explicit. We are targeting Black males. We see it as an issue in STEM. And then they began to really target that and be very specific and build out programming around that to make an impact. So there's some questions though. One of which is the scalability, particularly if you don't have those resources elsewhere. Another, I think, critique of this program is that they kind of cream, right? And what I mean by that is, you know, when they talk about recruiting, they say, hey, we get 2,000 applications for this program. We bring 150 people to campus to interview. We take about 59 each year, right? So they're taking the best and they're transforming them. But the question is then, what are we doing for all the rest of the students, right? Can you go to the next slide? So California, state I now reside in, they have a couple initiatives that I think are worth talking about. One of which is what they call the Cal Bridge program. I haven't been able to get data on the success of the program, but I really like the idea of the program. And so what Cal realized is that they have their flagship schools, right? The UCs that are really terrific and do a really good job. They're pretty much all Research One institutions, but Cal had a problem a couple years back with Proposition, I'm going to get the number wrong, but they got rid of affirmative action and they saw a precipitous decline in the UCs, right, the top tier schools in terms of Black enrollment. And so a lot of the students, again, went to the Cal State schools, which are more regional institutions and or the community colleges. So what Cal did was build up a program in which they said, okay, we're going to take students from the community college, help them create pathways in STEM to transfer into the Cal States and then have PhD opportunities in the UCs, right? And we're going to build this pathway thinking, right? We got to meet the students where they are. We know they're in the community colleges. We know they're in the Cal States. How do we get them in the UCs, right? So there's intentionality. And then as of actually last week, they created a new designation called BSI, right? Black Serving Institution. So you all may be familiar with HSIs. My school is a HSI. For HSI, to be a HSI, to have that designation, 25% of your undergraduate population needs to be Hispanic. California said, again, if we're going to be intentional and if we're going to address the issues, well, then we got to name the issues. And so what they wanted to do then was to create Black serving institutions. But I think it's really funny, though, if you look at it, that only at least 10% of your population has to be Black or 2,000 students, right? So again, HSI, 25%, BSI, 10%, right? Or 2,000 students. So that lets you know the nature, right, of the struggles that we have when it comes to diversifying our school, that just to get this designation, if you could just get 2,000 students, and then you could become a BSI. But again, it gives the intentionality and it really starts to target our programming around it. Yeah, I'm at the end. All right. Sorry. All right. These are my last few slides. If you want to know what keeps college administrators up, it's these slides right here. Anybody know what these slides are? All right. So Nathan Grawl is a faculty member at Carleton College, and he did two things. He took our fertility rates data and he overlapped it with college demand data. And he came up with these elegant slides. And what they point to is what we call the demographic cliff. And if you look 2025, you see a big drop off in, and so if you count backwards from 2025, you say, what happened? The Great Recession. The Great Recession happened in America and people stopped having kids. And with every other recession in America, people, you would stop having kids for a year or two and then it would bounce back. It didn't bounce back in America. And so the Great Recession really created a precipitous decline in our birth rates. And so for every college, right, there's a fear, unless you're in this little quadrant right here. Elite institutions, right? The demand is always going to be there for them. And so we're starting to see a pull away between the 2-year institutions, the regional 4-year institutions, and our elite institutions. Can you go to the next slide? All right. The one thing I just want you to pay attention here to is these different colors. They point to the regions that are going to be the most impacted by this, right? So if you're the West, in the Mountain West, you're okay. Your demographics are going up. If you're in the South, they're not going up as high, but they're not going down as bad. Go to the next slide. I'm going to skip over this really quickly. And so what we're seeing is the differential impact for these different institutions by race. And if you can look again, what you'll see is a typical pattern. Asian Americans overrepresented, right? At your elite institutions and your national 4-year institutions, Blacks being more represented at regionals and 2 years. All right, next slide. Next slide. All right, so I just want you to pay attention to this because this is really key. This is the current majority of the US population, right? And where Blacks live. Probably no surprise to you, blacks live in the South. And right, that number is growing more and more as what we have, what we call reverse migration, right? I was just talking with a faculty colleague here about the Great Migration, blacks moving from the South to the North. Many of you, that's why you're here. But now we're seeing more and more of a reverse migration as housing costs get higher and higher in New York. People are selling and moving to the South. All right, so look at this map and then look at this next map. All right, so this is a map of America. So the Chronicle of Higher Education has been tracking DEI legislation that has been coming out targeting higher education. And if you look at the map of where blacks live and you look at the place where legislation has been proposed, right? Some of it passed, some of it tabled or not passed, but it tracks pretty well with where blacks are moving to. And in particular, right, 2 states where final legislation was approved and signed into law, Texas, Florida, right? Next slide. It's the last slide, right? All right, University of Texas, eliminating 60 DEI positions, right? Florida, the governor, right, signs a bill eliminating DEI, right, banning DEI on college campuses. So now, put everything together, right? Everything we've been talking about. What does it take to have a successful STEM cohort, you know, for blacks to achieve, right? You got to be intentional, right? You got to create welcoming environments. You got to invest. And right, I think in America, you can see, you know, I think by design, right, an attempt to really undo all the hard work that has gone into creating, you know, where we are, right, which isn't great. But as the populations decline, as more blacks move from the North to the South, you're starting to see more and more challenges in the South, more and more DEI legislation, affirmative action, right, ban. So again, blacks, even when they do get to the elite institutions or have the ability, we're making it harder for them to go there. When they can go to the comprehensive universities, we say, okay, well, you got to be intentional, you got to build in DEI. And they say, no, we're going to ban it. And so we're making it very, very difficult in America to build out STEM pipelines and to successfully help our students succeed. All right, sorry, I know I'm a little over time, but I appreciate that talk. Thank you.
So in the essence of time saving, we will take one question from each location. We'll start here in the US. So is there anyone from the audience? One question, Dr. Rose? Someone has a question. Anyone?
Well, I mean, you gesture towards this, and that I think about a lot as someone who works in a public university, and that's the role of the state, right? Because one of the ways in which they were able to create the BSI is almost a response to Prop 209, which eliminated affirmative action in 1996 in California, was by passing legislation. So I was wondering if you just say a little bit more about how you think about strategizing to address that, either that political mobilization, local, regional, national level.
Thanks. And before this, you and I were talking about movements, right? And movements create change. And so I think it has to be all the above. So certainly the state has a role, right? But as you said, the state responds to pressure, right? So this wasn't something that just, you know, lawmakers said, hey, you know, out of the goodness of my heart, let's come up with this, right? There was kind of this pendulum swing that happens, right? So Prop 209 passes, outlawing affirmative action. So Californians say, okay, well, how are we then going to address this? And then the pendulum swings the other way. And I think, right, we have to be very vigilant now, because I just focused on a state level, right? But if you recall, it seems like a very long time ago, but when Trump was president, right, he was on the federal level saying if you're receiving federal dollars, you can't do certain DEI things. Fortunately, at that time, it came out in his last year, and people were worried, but they didn't know what to do. But they said, okay, well, I think we can probably ignore it for now because he's not going to be president anymore. But what happens, right, when we get a Republican president who says, you know, no, we're going to do this on a federal level. So I do think the strategy has to be all the above, right? I think all the work that private organizations are doing is great, but it's not enough until we actually get policies that change and reflect and are intentional.
So maybe we can take the question from our London office now.
Do we have a question? Okay, I've got one actually. Is what do you think can be done to support the mental health of Black researchers?
That's a really great question. So I think there's a couple of things. One is being very intentional about building out support networks. And so, being a Black researcher myself, right? One of the questions that I had all throughout grad school was, is it me? Is it me? And it wasn't until I had an opportunity, right, to interact with other Black researchers, whether it was at my institution or other institutions, right? So helping to build out that network where I could say, oh no, it's not me. I am witnessing what I think I'm witnessing. I am experiencing what I think I'm experiencing, and then pumping resources, right, into kind of the mental health apparatus, right, that we're starting to see, and we do a better job of this on college campuses at the undergrad level, but we completely whiff when it comes to faculty, when it comes to grad students. Again, speaking from my own experience, when you're at a university, you really feel like this university is built for undergrads, right? The resources are for undergrads. You don't feel like those resources are there for you. So I think as much as possible, we can build out that apparatus, make sure we target, grad students, make sure we can target faculty members, and then help either build out that network or help them find that network so that they can work together. And then, of course, right, address the issues, right? I mean, so much of what people are experiencing are the microaggressions, right, that they have from their colleagues, right? The publishing world, right? We know, right, the publishing rates and the ways in which scholarship on race and things of that nature are not seen, right, as worthy in the same ways that other types of scholarship is. And then, of course, right, thinking about policies and things of that nature, getting to the structural issues, right, will help alleviate a lot of the personal issues that people are dealing with in terms of mental health.
And then we'll take one more question, hopefully from our Brazil office. You guys have a question?
Yes, it was very interesting to see this data about the US. And at some point we were talking on how similar the situation of the Black students is from us here in Brazil. But we are not even close to get to the point where you are to get all these advances, even if it's not outstanding what the US has, but it's much more than what we have achieved in our universities. And even though you guys have 14% of the population of Black people in the US, and we have more than 50%. So what do you think is, why do you think there is this difference in how much we have achieved so far?
Well, so I'm not an expert in Brazilian politics at all or in culture at all, but I mean, the little bit I know, as bad as we are talking about and addressing race head on in America, I get the impression that in Brazil there's still a lot of denial, right, when it comes to thinking through and talking through the issues around race. Again, because every nation has their own unique trajectory when it comes to race. Even the classifications are very different in Brazil, and so I get the sense that it's kind of one of those things. It's Martin Luther King, talks about blisters, right, when he was talking about in the Birmingham campaign. He talks about, in his letter from a Birmingham jail that, race is kind of like a blister, right? You gotta burst the blister in order for the ugliness to kind of ooze out, and then to really address the wound that is underneath. And I think that, part of the American history has been having conversations, trying to face up a bit about race, not always having the most honest conversations, but having moments of that. And I think that in Brazil, you got to do the same thing, and you got to look at the data. The data that I pointed to is national data, but even in America, at institutions, we got to do a better job of drilling down within our own institutions. So part of like what I'm doing right now in my work is, looking at gateway courses and who's teaching those gateway courses and how are our students faring in those gateway courses, so that I can then have those conversations with the faculty members saying, I hear you saying you're doing a great job. The data is saying otherwise, right? And so putting a demand on getting that data to kind of shed light so that you can have conversations based in fact is super important and something I would strongly encourage.
So now we're going to have a Q&A with Manny over in our London office.
Yeah,
We're going to share this one.
yeah, but yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
Hi, everyone. So we got the wonderful Manny here. Thank you, Manny, for joining us in this, coming over and joining us for this event. We really appreciate it.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here today.
So I really hope you guys really enjoyed the TikTok videos. I definitely did. I know we didn't get a chance to watch all of them, but the ones that we watched were amazing. And of course, we would have loved Manny to perform some of the experiments today, but unfortunately, we did get a no from facilities, so it wasn't us. So I'm going to start off with a quick Q&A session, beginning with some of the questions that we prepared, and then I'm going to open up to the floor with some questions that you guys have as well. So, Manny, first question is, why did you decide to study chemistry, and were there people surprised to see you in the lab? Did you get anything back from people?
Yeah, I would say my passion for science started when I was about in year 8. It came from my science teacher. He was like a really engaging and passionate teacher, and he passed that passion for science on to me. And then ever since then, science has just been my favorite subject. So I just decided to choose it for university. Yeah.
Amazing. All right.
Yeah. I would say that's what got me into it.
Okay, thank you. So have you, from your journey, did you encounter any racism or prejudice during your academic or professional journey? And how did you navigate those challenges as a scientist? I mean,
you know what? When I was in uni, I studied biomedical science, and on my course there was a lot of Asian people on my course, and I did a bit of research, and I found out that 32% of doctors in the UK come from an Asian background, and so I was like one of only about 3 other black guys in the lab, and so you can imagine, like me there, I had long dreadlocks at the time as well. So for me, I could have looked a bit out of place being in that environment because most people were, most black people weren't really going into that area. So it was quite a surprise to be in that environment, but I didn't really face any racism particularly.
Okay.
Like, I never had any negative effects of it. But with that being said, it was there. Like I can remember instances when I was in a classroom, and like things like teachers would just pick on certain students, or maybe certain students might be overlooked, or they might be neglected. And but yeah, me personally, I never experienced like I probably did experience it, but it never affected me because see me, yeah, I take like my success, I always put it down to me. Like it's my responsibility for my success. So there was no way that I was gonna allow anybody to stop me from achieving what I was gonna achieve. So like, for example, maybe somebody didn't want to give me an opportunity because of my background. However, I found an alternative way to achieve it. So I did experience it, but I just didn't allow it to stop my success. I always put my success on myself. Like I was responsible for that, and nobody was ever gonna stop me from achieving what I wanted to achieve just because of race.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm sure a lot of people go through the similar things as well. And it's the fact that, you built that resilience to say that's the way you face that challenge, right? And you said you overcome it. So thanks for sharing that with us. Another question that we had was, what types of support did you find most valuable from those around you? And what additional support would you find beneficial throughout your journey in STEM or in your career as well as you're studying?
I would say what I could have really benefited from when I was studying was some more representation in terms of the scientists. Because like the scientists that I learned about when I was in school, I can't recall any black scientists that they taught me about. And for young people, it's like you can only become what you see. So if a young black kid is not seeing any black scientists, they're only seeing white scientists, then for them, they're gonna think like, that's not my area, that's not my industry, because there's nobody there who looks like me. So I feel that a lot of young people today could benefit from representation, because it just lets them know that like you can achieve that as well. You know what I mean? Because there's somebody there who looks like you and they've got it. So why can't I achieve that as well? So yeah, I could have really benefited from some more representation, learning about more black scientists.
Yeah, absolutely. I think representation is key across any industry, any profession, actually. So it's so important. So going to younger kids, so what advice would you offer to young people right now who are considering a career in science or in STEM?
I would say one of the main things that helped me with my studies and with my career was asking questions.
Okay.
Because a lot of the time, people don't want to ask questions because they feel shy or they feel a bit reluctant, because they think that if I put my hand up and ask a question, the whole class is going to know that I don't know the answer. But a lot of the time, there's other students in that class who don't know as well. So when you put your hand up and ask, not only are you gaining knowledge for yourself, but also for the others around you. So all you got to do is just have that bravery and have that courage to put your hand up and ask the question. It may seem simple, but it will take you a very long way, because it means that you're not going to be sitting there in the dark without the knowledge. And another important point as well, something that really helped me with my studies, was revising early, not waiting until the last minute, like until you got like a couple of weeks before your exams. I started studying from the start of term, from the first lecture, when it first began. I was getting all my notes together, preparing everything, and that preparation there, that's what really helped me to obtain my degrees. So yeah, those two things: ask questions and prepare early.
I think those two things can be helpful to everyone, right? Especially as when you're in a workplace as well, when you're doing a last minute deadline, you're leaving it to last minute. Sometimes I do. But thank you. That's really good advice. Going to education institutions, and how can education institutions and workplace better support the underrepresented groups, especially in STEM?
I think that they need a bit more attention.
Okay.
And sometimes it is hard in the classrooms, when a teacher is managing 30 students, it's difficult to pay attention to every single student. But a lot of the time, people who come from these underrepresented backgrounds, they need that extra help. They need that extra support, because maybe they may not be as focused in lesson, because they might have something on their mind, something that's going on at home, something that's going on outside of school. So sometimes we just have to be a bit more patient with them, just have that understanding of their needs. And yeah, I would just say give them more attention and more patience, because I've worked in schools as a science technician, teaching assistant, and I found that the students respond best when you speak to them on a level, instead of speaking down to them and trying to be like an authoritarian figure over them, speaking to them like on the same level. And they really respond well to that, and they listen to you and they take on board what you're doing, what you're saying. So yeah, that's what I think can be done to help them.
Great, amazing. Thank you. Those are some of the questions I had prepared. So I'm putting it down to the audience and we can go across different locations, but we can start off with London here right now. Any questions does anyone have? And Marlene's going to come around.
That was a threat. I'm coming round.
Hi, Manny. You mentioned when speaking to students and students respond best when you're at their level. From your experience working in a school and with other teachers, do you think that comes with age? Maybe a lot of the teachers are more older, so therefore they can't get to the students' level. That's my first question. And also, when you were making your videos, were you quite intentional in your delivery? You know, did you do that on purpose because you knew students will resonate with you, rather than speaking on a more scientific tone, so to speak, a more worldly scientific tone, more white middle class scientific tone? Did you intentionally make your videos more for the students that you work with, just knowing that that will resonate with children across the board, because it is very, very popular? And I came across your Instagram and I was like, oh, I think my son would like this. Like, oh yeah, this makes sense. This makes sense. Yeah, I if I can kind of understand it. I've learned so much from watching your TikTok, and then I had to speak to my son, who's now 17. I'm like, do you know Big Manny? He just looked at me like, of course I know Big Manny. It's like, well, where are you from? So that's really two questions. Like, do you think teachers are older, so maybe they can't resonate with younger kids? I mean, I think you're quite young. You're certainly younger than me, so therefore you can resonate with them in the way you approach them and the conversations you have with them. And also with your videos, did you intentionally deliver your content in that way?
Well, for the first question, yeah, I would say yes and no. Age does play a part, but it doesn't have to play a part, because the teacher who inspired me, at the time, he was 60 plus. And I couldn't really relate to him at all, but he was still able to instill that passion in me. So obviously, like, if you're younger, then it's going to be a bit easier, because like you're a closer age to them, so you can relate to them, so you've got things in common. So naturally, it's going to be easier to form a relationship and a bond with them. And I did find that my age did help. But also, yeah, like, even for older teachers, the way you build a connection with students, yeah, you don't have to be talking slang like how they talk or dressing how they. It's not about that. All you got to do is just be yourself, like, be your authentic self. Like, instead of trying to like be too authoritarian over them, like, show them a bit of your personality, a bit of who you are. And students really, they respect that when they can see that a teacher is actually being themselves instead of trying to put on something else. Students respond well to that. So a teacher of any age can connect with a student. And I think the way you do that is just by being authentically yourself. And yeah, when I first started making the videos with the voiceovers, it wasn't intentional. I just decided to just record it like how I normally talk. Like if I was just having like a conversation with somebody, or yeah. And I found that like I'm sure you can like recall back when you was in a classroom, if you was talking to a friend and somebody was explaining something to you, sometimes it's more understandable hearing it from a friend than it is from the teacher, because it's like your peers, they're on a similar level to you. So it's easier for you to just take it in. So I feel that's one of the reasons why the students like it, because it's relatable and it feels like it's just quite informal. And yeah, I think that's what helps them to be engaged with it.
We've got one more.
Thank you. I have two questions. Is that allowed? So the first one is, what has been the most surprising reaction or outcome from the content that you make? And the second question is, what kind of scientist, or what did you want to do when you were a kid, and how does that relate to what you do now?
Yeah, I would say the most surprising outcome, yeah, is like I've received a few messages from people saying things like they were in school and they weren't really engaged. They weren't really paying attention to the teacher. They just weren't listening. And outside of school, they were getting up to things that they shouldn't be getting up to. So basically, they were going down the wrong path. But then they started watching my videos, and then they started focusing more in lesson. They started taking it seriously, and they actually started to think about a career. And yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so like to know that I could have potentially stopped someone from going down the path of crime, jail, who knows what, and kept them on the path of education. I mean, like that's brilliant, you know, to know that I can have that impact on people and help them to do the right thing. Yeah. And sorry, what was the second question? Yeah, so well, when I was like very, very young, like primary school, probably like about 6, 7, I wanted to be an astronaut. Yeah. That was my first ever aspiration to become an astronaut. But then as I got older, I moved away from the physics and went more towards the chemistry and the biology. And then I wanted to become a doctor instead. So I got my bachelor's in biomedical science. Then I got my master's. And then the plan was to do the PhD after that in medicine. But the content creation started to take off. So I started to go down that path instead. But yeah, my original aspiration was to become a doctor. I wanted to become an NHS doctor. I still might do the PhD at some point, maybe.
Right. Thanks for the information that you've told us today. I have to say, I hadn't heard of you. I don't even have TikTok on my phone. I feel quite old now. But what I'd really like to know is how do you decide which science experiments to do? Is it just the ones more explosive, or is there kind of a teaching element to it, or how do you do it? If I was to look at your feed, what should I go for?
Well, within the science curriculum for chemistry, biology, and physics, we have something called required practicals. Now, required practicals are the ones that are going to come up in the exams for the students. So I focus mainly on those experiments because that's going to be most beneficial to them for their exams. So that's one type of experiment that I do, the required practicals. But then also, I will just do like any kind of experiment that's going to be visually engaging. So something with a little bit of fire in there, maybe a little explosion, and yeah, just something to show people the power of chemistry. So those are the two main types of content, something exciting and engaging, and something that you're going to need for school and for your lessons.
Hi, Manny. This is Paulette Watson here. I'm interested. You mentioned that there's a lack of representation of scientists, yeah, when you were growing up. But you mentioned that you were inspired by your teacher who was 60, yeah? What I'm interested in is you also said that you wanted to be an astronaut. Am I correct? Yeah. Who inspired you at home? And I ask this question because I work with a lot of girls doing the Be Me to raise 1 million Black girls in STEM and AI across the globe. But the problem I'm having is a lot of boys want to come onto my program. Now that I know about you, I'll be telling them more about you to come and check you out on TikTok. But they always talk to me about home environment. So I want to see what inspired you.
You know what? When I was at home, yeah, my parents always put a very, very strong emphasis on education. Like that was the most important thing for me. Like my parents would say to me, you got to read your book before you play games. You got to do your homework before you go out and play. And yeah, they just instilled that in me from young. And it got to a point where they didn't even have to tell me to do my studies anymore. I just started doing it by myself. Like because I just became used to it. So it just became like second nature. I knew, right, it's time to study now. So I think when you instill it in children from when they're young, after a while, you don't even need to do it anymore because they're just gonna just do it themselves. So yeah, my parents, they're the reason for that.
Okay, great. I think we're going to move to the US. I think we've got a question from there.
Yes, we have one question.
Hi. Just like the lady over in the UK, I had never heard of you. But what you're doing is amazing. I could think of my little cousins that probably, if they were into science, they probably would enjoy your stuff. But I just wanted to question one of the things that you said earlier about how the best thing for teachers to really to empower their students and to, I guess, relate to them is to not try to emulate them, but to be their authentic self. My question is, especially when it comes to, since we're talking about DEI and we're talking about race in this, what if their authentic self is talking down to people, is being racist, is being discriminatory? Like, how do you think that how do you think a student can mitigate that?
Honestly, like as a teacher, and that's one of the reasons why students struggle so much, because a lot of the teachers, not all of them, but a lot of them, they're just there for the paycheck. They don't have the passion. They're not really there because they want to see the students succeed. They're just there because they have to pay some bills at the end of the month. And like when it comes to teaching, yeah, it's children's lives. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't do that job if you don't have a passion for it, if you don't enjoy it, because you could end up messing up a young person's life. Like there's certain jobs like that you have to have a passion for, like teaching, even working as a doctor. You have to actually enjoy it because you're in charge of somebody's life. It's a life and death situation. And teaching is one of those jobs, you know. So yeah, man, you actually have to have a passion for it and a reason for why you're doing it. You can't just do it just to make ends meet. And if you are, then I think you should rethink it, because this is children's lives that we're talking about here.
Great. From Brazil? No? Oh, okay. There's one comment online from a Leslie. Just a note of gratitude. I'm a high school science teacher in Canada and very much looking forward to incorporating your videos into my classes. Thank you for your work here. Yeah.
Right.
And Manny will be hanging around for those in the London office. So I know that some of you probably have additional questions, so can grab him for a question and a selfie. Okay. Right, now we're going back across to New York.
I know you guys have spent so much time with us today, so we're going to let you go very soon. Devs will be closing out. But before we close out, I just wanted to announce something very special to SM Ben that we've been working on. So every year, Springer Nature affords each network the opportunity to donate 10,000 euros to any organization that embodies the mission of not only the networks, but the Springer Nature's SDG goals. So in 2023, we were proud to announce AIMS, the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences, as our donation recipient. With 5 campuses located on the continent of Africa, our relationship and work has begun with the staff in Kigali, Rwanda. One of our main goals is to assist in the future of research and have chosen to donate funding to a research assistant who will be working on the topics of waterborne diseases and water-related illnesses. With 48 applicants who are all required to have a master's degree in statistics, data science, and mathematical science, Cassie, please forgive me, Habiatamana, was appointed to the position of research assistant under the AIMS project Official Statistics on Climate Health Interactions. With the help of Magdalena Skipper, SM Ben was able to secure a mentor for the research assistant through the volunteering of Fabio Polizzo, chief editor of Nature Water, and Kyle Fushkorn from Nature Microbiology has also offered to give a talk on research publishing from the Nature portfolio perspective to the AIMS staff. So we are going to continue building this relationship. It's very important to SMBN. And we are so excited to announce that we will be using our 2024 donation and it will return to Ames. A special thank you to Winnie, who is present on the call, and Dr. Osambu, who works tirelessly on this program with us. And yeah, we're going to throw this back to the UK.
Great, thank you. So as we come to the end of our meeting today, SNBN and I thank you all for being here. Taking time out of your day to attend is a step towards demonstrating your commitment to advancing DEI in STEM. I hope you found today's talks interesting and insightful. A special thanks goes to Scientific American, our event sponsor, and to our guest speakers for their invaluable contributions. Our online webinar will be ending shortly, and we will send a follow-up email to all attendees with the links to the organisations mentioned today, our guest speakers, and some relevant content. For those in our offices, we have a little bit of time and a lot of wine, about 10, 15 minutes. So this is a great opportunity to speak to the organisations mentioned today. And a special message to Paulette. I understand that very recently you were announced an MBE for exceptional contributions to educational services. Congratulations. So thank you all again, once again for attending. Let's continue to work together towards a more diverse and equitable future in STEM. Thank you so much. Okay, great. Thank you all. Bye bye.